Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 5 of the series. In the last video, we fixed the bad code, closed the security holes, and sorted out the performance issues. So now the app works. The code is clean. Time to add tests. Now, interesting thing, test coverage isn't officially in Atlassian's Marketplace requirements. I actually went looking for it in the docs and couldn't find it written down anywhere. But from previous experience, when Atlassian reviews your app, they ask for test coverage and a security scan of your dependencies. The sneak style thing, so that's what we're going to aim for. So let's see what Claude thinks. I ask it to propose a plan for testing the app, and Claude comes back with a recommendation, Jest plus TS Jest. Claude then lists 7 service modules worth testing: validation, licensing, operations, Jira, presets, history, and scheduled, and asks me, do I want to cover all of them or just a subset? All of them. And while we're at it, cover the resolvers in the front end too, the whole thing, because that's what reviewers look at. Claude gets to work. A couple of minutes later, it comes back with a full test suite, 324 tests passing, 99.88% statement coverage, every service, every resolver, every front-end component. Now, I want to be honest about what these tests actually prove, because a lot of these tests are heavy on mocks. Forge API is mocked, Forge KVS is mocked, Forge React is mocked, Forge Bridge is mocked. Here's what the KVS mock looks like. The real Atlassian KVS is a distributed key value store. Our mock is a JavaScript map. That's it. And here's the API mock. We push fake responses into a queue. The code under test pulls them out and thinks it's talking to Jira. 80-something lines of pretending. And when you mock everything like this, you're not really testing whether the app works. You're testing whether your code calls the right functions in the right order against fake versions of those services, which is useful, but it's not the same as proving the app works in production. The tests that actually matter are the ones around real logic: validation, licensing, the operation dispatch logic, JQL building, that stuff. Pure functions with real inputs and real outputs. Those tests genuinely catch bug. The rest of it, the resolver tests, the front-end component tests, the mocked-out KVS tests, most of that is testing that mocks return what mocks were told to return. So why did I do it? Because Atlassian Marketplace Review wants high test coverage, and 100% statement coverage looks great on a report, even if half of those tests are basically theater. So I went with it. 324 tests, 99.88%, done. But the only way to really know if the app works is to actually drive the UI against a real Jira instance, which is exactly what end-to-end tests are for. So that's where I tried to go next, Playwright. So I asked Claude to set up Playwright, and Claude pushed back hard. UIKit apps render inside Atlassian's native shell, which means Playwright selectors against that shell are fragile and slow. 5 to 10 seconds per test, rate limit prone. And honestly, that's a fair answer. End-to-end testing for UIKit apps is genuinely complicated. The shell isn't yours, the selectors aren't stable, and the whole thing runs against rate-limited APIs. So we skipped Playwright, which means the unit tests are what we have. Imperfect, but it's what we've got. All right, next thing I need, reports. Because eventually, I'll need to send this to Atlassian as part of the Marketplace review. I asked Claude what options we have, and Claude gives me 3. Jest HTML Reporter for a human-readable HTML file, Jest JUnit for standard JUnit XML, and the built-in coverage flag for the coverage report. I pick all 3. Claude generates them. And that's it. Test suite is done. Reports are ready. Let's take stock of where we are. 324 tests, 3 report formats. The code is clean, so the app should be ready. But before submitting to the Marketplace, I asked Claude to do one more security and quality pass, just in case. And Claude came back with 4 things to do: add a rate limit retry, run a proper security review, minimize manifest scopes, and create an end-to-end checklist for manual QA. Let's go through them. First task, and this one was actually a real bug, not just a missing test. The Jira REST API returns 429 when you hit rate limits. And right now, bulk ops doesn't handle that. A user running an operation on 500 issues would eventually hit the limit, and the app would just fail mid-operation, silently, which is the one thing the app is supposed to do well. So Claude added a retry in both places: the backend wrapper in services Jira.ts and the front-end wrapper in bulk-executor.ts. The retry honors the retry after header from Jira, falls back to exponential backoff, max 5 retries, capped at 30 seconds. And Claude added 14 new tests for this. 339 tests total now. Coverage still at 99.88%. Second, the security review. Claude ran the security review skill on the rate limit diff. No vulnerabilities found. Third, the scope audit. Claude verified every Jira endpoint the app hits against Atlassian's scope documentation. And the current manifest scopes, storage app, read Jira work, write Jira work, are minimal and sufficient, including bulk delete, which maps to write Jira work per Atlassian's docs. No extra scope needed. Fourth, the end-to-end checklist. Claude created a markdown file called e2e_checklist.md, manual QA steps for licensing, every operation, permission boundaries, admin pages, scheduled triggers, rate limits, UX, and pre-submission hygiene. plus a scope audit table and documented design trade-offs for the reviewers. Everything in one document. That I can walk through myself before submitting. Although, I want to be honest about this too. We never properly automated end-to-end testing. The Playwright route turned out too complicated. So all of this still relies on running through a checklist by hand, which is exactly the kind of thing I don't want to be doing. But for now, that's what we have, which probably means I'm going to ignore it and submit anyway. Now, I remembered one more thing. Atlassian also wants a dependency check. Same kind of thing Sneak does, scanning your NPM packages for known vulnerabilities. So I asked Claude to generate a dependency audit report that I can attach to the Marketplace submission. And it comes back with 3 reports: a human-readable Markdown file and 2 machine-readable JSON files. One for production dependencies only, one for all dependencies. And the scan summary: 0 critical, 0 moderate, 0 low, 1 high severity finding, 1. And the one finding is Lodash version 4.17.23. Of course it is. It's always Lodash. Now, the easy thing to do here would be to write it off. Lodash is pulled in transitively by Atlassian's own packages, Forge API and Forge React. Our app source doesn't import Lodash at all. And the specific functions that are vulnerable, template, unset, omit, none of them are even reachable from bulk ops code paths. So technically, not exploitable. We could just submit the report with that explanation and move on. But I asked Claude to fix it anyway. 3 things. Bump Forge API from 7.1.1 to 7.1.3. Bump Forge React from 11.13.1 to 11.14.1. And add an override to package.json pinning Lodash to 4.18.1 across every dependency path. The override is the important bit. Even if some Atlassian package down the line tries to pull in an old Lodash again, the override forces it back to the safe version. Reran the audit, 0 findings. All 5 dependency paths now resolved to Lodash 4.18.1. Clean report to send to Atlassian. One last thing. While we were on the topic of testing, I had a question that had been bothering me. The reason we couldn't do real end-to-end testing earlier is that there's no way to drive Forge UI kit components in a browser. So I asked Claude, does Atlassian maybe have an official package that solves this? Claude checks the official Forge SDK and the NPM registry. And the honest answer is no. There is no official testing package. There's no built-in way to render Forge UI kit components in a browser for testing. You're on your own. If you're starting a new Forge app and wondering why testing feels awkward, it's not you, it's the platform. All right, let's recap. We started with 0 tests. We added Jest and TS Jest. Claude wrote tests for every service, every resolver, every front-end component. We ended up with 339 tests at 99.88% coverage. We generated 3 report formats: HTML, JUnit, and coverage. We discovered that rate limit handling was a real code gap, not a test gap, and fixed it. We ran a proper security review, no vulnerabilities. We audited the manifest scopes, minimal and sufficient. We created an end-to-end checklist for manual QA. We generated a dependency audit report, found 1 Lodash vulnerability, and pinned it cleanly with a package.json override. And we confirmed that Atlassian doesn't ship an official testing package. One thing I want to highlight before we wrap up. Let me be honest about the tests. We wrote 339 of them. We hit 99.88% coverage. And most of those tests are theater. We wrote them because we expect reviewers to ask for coverage, not because they actually prove the app works. And here's the thing. Writing tests that genuinely test your app is hard. It takes real work. Atlassian has a good idea. They want apps to be tested. But the moment reviewers start asking for coverage numbers without giving you the tools to write real tests, developers do what developers always do. They write whatever passes the review. Mocks talking to mocks. Coverage for the sake of coverage. Back in the data center days, Atlassian had a proper package for functional testing. Selenium-based, built-in helpers, the whole thing. You could actually write good integration tests because they gave you the tools. In Forge, there's nothing. No official testing package. No E2E framework. Nothing. So a good idea, apps should be tested, turns into the opposite. Developers spend their time writing fake tests just to pass review, instead of building something that actually works. In the next video, we're going to create the documentation for the app. And I actually want to ask you something. Where do you think the documentation should live? On Confluence? Somewhere else? What would you pick and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read all of them. See you in the next video.